Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about the film Tusk. Long ago, I used to be a big Kevin Smith fan when I first got into movies, and he was one of my favorite directors. That was a different Kevin Smith ago. I remember being so excited to see Dogma in theaters when it came out. But my love for Kevin Smith movies hasn't maintained since Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, I think, was the last one I saw in theaters. I've missed a bunch of them since then. Although I have seen Red State and Clerks 2, my interest in him has really lowered. His scripts are very written. His dialogue is very monologue heavy. He didn't really develop as a filmmaker for a while. As much as I sometimes like certain ones of his films, others that I liked at one point, I've gotten sick of later and it almost kind of embarrassed of. Although I still kind of like the first Clerks. A man who gets kidnapped and surgically transformed into a walrus. That freaks me the fuck out because it's creepy, and when someone like mutilates someone into some weird creature, I don't know why that is, but that's some stuff that can really freak me out when someone gets transformed into something unhuman and they have no control over it. I guess it's because one of the things I always talk about with horror is I think people do fear what they don't understand or can't figure out the answer to. Losing any sort of humanity, I think, would be probably the greatest extent to that. Smith's direction and execution doesn't really help or stay on that long enough. Smith doesn't go into that as much as a horror director would. He cuts back and forth trying to act like this film has some sort of a moral lesson, because the podcaster played by Justin Long, Wallace, does a podcast with his friend played by Haley Joel Osment. It's called the Not See podcast, like not and see as separate words, N-O-T-S-E-E, but the joke is it sounds like Nazi, which is a total Kevin Smith joke. And he finds weirdos, interviews them, and then tells Haley Joel Osment about it, and they laugh about it. It's trying to show how Justin Long's character Wallace has lost his humanity as a human, and then he will ultimately lose it by being transformed into a walrus. I don't feel like it really goes towards it. It gets too involved in various different plot lines, especially with Haley Joel Osment and Wallace's girlfriend trying to track him down. When he went to Canada, he originally wanted to interview this kid called Kill Bill Kid, who made this video, and he was swinging his sword around and he cut off his own leg, but they thought that was really funny. It's kind of a take on Star Wars Kid, which was, I thought, a little stupid. Like, Kill Bill Kid, like, why would wouldn't he be Sword Kid or something? He goes to Canada for that, and he goes to interview the kid, and he shows up, and it turns out he's shown up at the kid's funeral. He has no other reason to be in Canada until Wallace finds an ad advertising a free room if he does some household chores and listens to this guy's story, played by Michael Parks, who drugs Justin Long's character and starts doing experimental surgeries on him, messing with his body enough so he can be sewn into a human skin version of a walrus suit. I don't have a disdain for Kevin Smith. I guess I grew out of it. But this film, in a lot of ways, makes me feel like a kid because a lot of it isn't great, but I can't get him in that skin walrus suit out of my head, unfortunately, which I really kind of wish I could. Mostly like when I was a kid and I saw like a bad Tales from the Crypt, that when I would see it when I was older, I'd be like, oh, this is just stupid. But some of that imagery freaks me out, and the idea of this freaks me out. And I think that's what's really going on with Tusk, with that. But then it has some decent parts, like Smith's dialogue with Michael Parks. Smith and Michael Parks are the best pairing Smith has had since probably Ben Affleck. He makes Smith's dialogue not sound as written and as speechy as it usually does. He really makes Smith's dialogue sound like some like epic prose that it never really was, that the other actors in this can't really do as well as Michael Parks can. This and Red State had Michael Parks in it. I actually prefer this to Red State because I think I'll probably remember a lot more of this over Red State. There are too many things with Tusk that shows, as much as technically wise Kevin Smith has matured as a filmmaker, storytelling wise, it feels like he still hasn't evolved that much. He still has problems when he introduces a character played by Johnny Depp. It feels like he's having more fun putting Johnny Depp in the movie and doesn't really understand the point of that character. He just seems so happy to have a character like that. And I think that's the thing with Tusk, is he has a lot of interesting scenes and cool ideas, and it does feel a lot more inspired than Kevin Smith has felt in a long time. And so I don't want to pan it, but it wasn't really technically a good movie, and it will stick with me. And I was surprised to see like kind of a weird original horror movie in a multiplex, at least, and play in this many theaters. It just has too many things where it just kind of abandons its story. He really shouldn't be messing around as much. I'd like to see him try to make a traditional movie. I kind of feel like he couldn't. There's some writers and directors, when they do things that are off, you're like, oh, well, they could make a big mainstream movie. They could make a normal kind of 3-act thing. And with Smith, it's like he can't do that ordinarily, and then he's doing this weirder structure. And I guess he's trying to kind of comment on how cruel society is and on the internet, and almost like that scene in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back where they come and beat up all the commenters who said shit about them. A lot of this is similar to that, or what this movie is trying to say. I feel like it's like another thing Smith said a long time ago that he's rehashing all over again. It's so an all over the place kind of a movie that you can't really, in terms of tone, I mean, sometimes different performers, like when you have Justin Long and Michael Parks, Justin Long feels like he's a normal actor in a Kevin Smith movie, and then Michael Parks feels like he's in a completely different kind of Kevin Smith movie, and it just doesn't mesh even for the scene. It feels very random. He's never someone who I thought before was even into horror movies, and I didn't know he even watched horror movies before he started making so many of them now. I would have expected him to do something that's more akin to the genres we thought or understood that he was probably good at, but that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. I mean, I think Kevin Smith's going to do what he's going to do, and no one can stop him. Whether he sounds like a superhero or a supervillain is really up to you. It does feel like kind of him orchestrating a cult movie, which is not something I do like. And I don't particularly love this movie or have any need to see it again. And this doesn't like get me back into Kevin Smith. At least he's not making the View Askew universe. At least he's trying to evolve somewhat directorially and through his filmography. And at least he's trying and feels a little more inspired, and it doesn't feel like his usual kind of cheapy comedy. I know he talked about retiring a lot for a while. And if he's going to do stuff like this, I guess it's alright. I guess I'm okay with it. I wasn't really underwhelmed. I was more just kind of like shocked at what I was watching and seeing, like Johnny Depp's surprise appearance. I think it's more just a surprise of its existence, and that's really what it was kind of made as. So under that, and maybe it succeeded if you think of it that way. It made me change my mind about Kevin Smith as a director a little bit, but I still would much rather watch this than like a Clerks 3, and I think that's enough of an improvement for me with Kevin Smith. So if you have seen Tusk and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments, and subscribe if you would like to. I'm very sleepy. Which actually features a song from the Fleetwood Mac album Tusk, which isn't really clever, but I was kind of just hoping, because I like that album, that it would be on there.